My wife destroyed the 15 years we spent together because of an affair, so I went cold, disappeared, and let the silence destroy her instead. I'm sitting in my new apartment right now, looking out at a skyline I didn't know 3 months ago, and I can't remember the last time I felt this calm. It's strange how silence can feel like freedom when you've spent years living in noise you didn't recognize. This isn't a revenge story, not really. It's about the moment you realize the person sleeping next to you is a stranger, and what you do when that realization doesn't break you, it clarifies you. 3 months ago, I found a receipt. That's it. That's how 15 years ended. Not with screaming or tears or some dramatic confrontation. Just a piece of paper in a jacket pocket. It was a Thursday. I remember because Thursdays were my dry cleaning days, a routine I'd kept for years. Zafira had asked me to drop off her blazer along with my work clothes. Standard stuff. I checked the pockets out of habit before handing everything over. Inner pocket, folded receipt, high-end restaurant downtown, the kind with a 3-month waiting list and prix-fixe menus that cost more than most people's car payments. Reservation for 2. Date stamp from her solo business trip to the coast 2 weeks prior. The trip where she'd called me every night, told me about boring conference sessions, and how much she missed our bed. And there, on the merchant copy in neat handwriting, collects Thorne. I stood in our bedroom holding that receipt for maybe 30 seconds. Didn't move, didn't call her name, just processed. Collects Thorne. Never heard the name before. Not once in 15 years. I could have asked her about it right then. She was downstairs making coffee, humming something, probably checking her phone. I could have walked down and said, "Hey, who's Collects Thorne?" I didn't. Instead, I photographed the receipt, put it back exactly where I found it, dropped off the dry cleaning, went to work, ran foundation analysis on a commercial site like it was any other Thursday, but something had shifted. You know that feeling when you're reviewing structural data and one number's off? Not wildly wrong, just enough that you know something's compromised underneath? That's what my marriage felt like suddenly. Not broken, just false. That night, after she fell asleep, I checked our credit card statements. Joint account we'd shared since year 2. I'd never looked closely before. Why would I? We trusted each other. There it was, same restaurant, 4 times in 3 months, different dates, always when she was traveling for work. I went deeper, hotel charges, always boutique places, never the corporate chains her company usually booked. Always cities that matched her conference schedule, but amounts that didn't make sense for business rates. Phone records, joint plan, I had access. One number, hundreds of texts, calls at odd hours, 11 p.m., 6 a.m., 20-minute conversations on days she'd told me she was in back-to-back meetings. I should have felt something, right? Anger? Heartbreak? That crushing chest pain thing people describe? I felt nothing. Just this cold, clear focus. The next morning, Zafira was in the shower. Her laptop was open on the kitchen counter. She always left it logged in, never bothered with passwords at home. Why would she? I was her husband. I was safe. I opened her email. Main account showed work stuff, calendar invites, vendor communications, but there was a second account button in the corner, a Gmail address I didn't recognize. One click, inbox full, emails going back 8 months, subject lines that made my jaw tighten. Last night was perfect. Can't stop thinking about you. When can I see you again? Photos, attachments, industry event pictures I'd seen before, Zafira at hospitality conferences, but cropped differently now. Him next to her. Collects Thorne. Handsome. Tailored suit. Yacht broker according to his email signature. Married, 2 kids mentioned in one of his messages. I heard the shower shut off upstairs. I closed the laptop, made myself toast, poured coffee. When she came down 15 minutes later in her robe, damp hair, she smiled at me. "Morning, babe, sleep okay?" "Fine," I said. "You? Great. I've got that site visit at 11, so I need to leave early." No site visit on her calendar. I'd checked. "Drive safe," I told her. She kissed my cheek, grabbed her coffee, headed back upstairs to get dressed. I sat there at our kitchen table in the house we bought together 7 years ago, and realized I wasn't married anymore. Not really. I was just living with someone who'd gotten very good at performing the role. Over the next week, I watched. Didn't change my routine, didn't ask questions, didn't give any indication that anything had shifted. I went to work, came home, had dinner with her, watched her texting when she thought I wasn't looking. I set up the camera on day 9. Tiny thing. Tucked behind books on the shelf in our home office where she took her private work calls. Completely legal in our state for shared spaces. Day 12, I got what I needed. Audio recording, clear as day. Her voice, soft and warm in a way I hadn't heard directed at me in months. "I love you, too. I know it's complicated, but I can't imagine going back to how things were before. You make me feel alive again." I was sitting in my car in our driveway when I played it back. She was inside, probably cooking dinner, probably planning to ask me about my day over wine like nothing was wrong. And that's when I knew. This wasn't just lovemaking. This wasn't some impulsive mistake. This was her choosing him. Every single day, while looking me in the eye and pretending we still had a marriage worth protecting. I sat there listening to my wife tell another man she loved him, and I made a decision. I wasn't going to fight for her. I wasn't going to beg or scream or ask why. I was going to disappear. The next morning, I woke up next to her like nothing had changed. She was still asleep, hair spread across the pillow, one hand tucked under her cheek. Peaceful, beautiful, even. For 15 years, this had been my favorite view, the quiet moment before the day started, when everything felt simple. Now I just saw a stranger. I got up, showered, made coffee. Normal routine. She came down 20 minutes later in her robe, kissed my cheek, asked what I wanted for dinner. I said whatever she felt like making. She smiled. Perfect performance. I went to work, analyzed soil samples, reviewed foundation reports, talked to contractors about load-bearing calculations. My job is all about finding weaknesses in structures before they collapse. Turns out that skill transfers pretty well to marriage. That night, I started building my case. I wasn't angry anymore. Anger is hot, reactive, stupid. What I felt was cold, methodical. I approached this the same way I'd approach any engineering problem. Gather data, identify variables, calculate outcomes, execute solution. First, financial records. I pulled up every credit card statement from the past year, highlighted charges that didn't match her calendar. Expensive restaurants on nights she claimed she was working late at the office. Hotel rooms in cities where she supposedly had solo client meetings. It was all there. She'd been sloppy, or maybe she just never thought I'd look. Second, communications. Our phone plan gave me access to call logs and text summaries. Hundreds of messages to one number, always late at night, always when she said she was checking work emails before bed. I didn't need to read the content. The pattern was enough. Third, the email account. She'd left it open on our laptop 3 days ago. I bookmarked the login page, set up a password manager to save her credentials. Now I could check whenever I wanted. I didn't read everything. I'm not a masochist, but I saved key exchanges, dinner plans, hotel confirmations, a message from 2 weeks ago where she told him she couldn't wait to finally be free. Free. That word sat in my chest like a stone. I started following her. Sounds crazy, but I needed visual confirmation. Evidence a court would actually respect. So I took a half day, told my boss I had a dentist appointment, and rented a sedan from an airport location 40 minutes away. Paid cash, wore a baseball cap and sunglasses like some discount private investigator. Followed her to a boutique hotel downtown. Watched her walk in at 2 p.m., on a Wednesday. Collex showed up 10 minutes later, tall, tailored suit, expensive watch. They didn't even try to hide it. He put his hand on her lower back as they walked to the elevator. I took photos, timestamps, license plate numbers. 3 hours later, they came out laughing. She checked her phone, probably reading the text I'd sent earlier asking if she wanted me to pick up groceries. She replied while standing next to him, "Yes, please. Love you." Red heart emoji. I drove home and put the steaks on the grill. This became my routine. During the day, I was the same guy I'd always been, polite, focused, reliable. At night, I was someone else entirely. I researched state divorce laws, learned about asset division, adultery clauses, evidence requirements. Turns out my state still considers infidelity in property settlements. Good to know. I opened a new bank account at a credit union across town, started rerouting my direct deposits, just mine, not hers. Small amounts at first, then larger chunks. I transferred the inheritance money my parents left me. That was legally separate property anyway, but it had been sitting in our joint savings for years. Now it was locked away where she couldn't touch it. I made copies of everything. Property deeds, car titles, investment account statements, rental property documents. I burned it all to an encrypted drive and stored it in my office desk drawer. Then I made 2 more copies and put them in safe deposit boxes at different banks. Every night, I'd come home and she'd be there, smiling, cooking, asking about my day, talking about her exhausting meetings and difficult clients. I'd nod, ask follow-up questions, pour wine, we'd watch TV together. Sometimes she'd curl up against me on the couch, her head on my shoulder. It was the strangest thing, playing my own ghost, being present but not really there, watching her lie while knowing exactly where she'd been and who she'd been with. 2 weeks after I found the receipt, we went out for dinner. Nice place downtown. Our anniversary was coming up and she wanted to celebrate early since she'd be traveling that week. She wore the dress I'd always loved, the dark blue one that made her eyes look brighter. She reached across the table, took my hand, told me how lucky she was to have me. 15 years, she said, squeezing my fingers. I know we've had our rough patches, but I want you to know I'm committed to us, to making this work. I smiled, squeezed back. Me, too. I was thinking, she continued. Maybe we should plan something big for our actual anniversary. A trip somewhere, just the two of us, reconnect, you know? Sounds perfect. I said, where were you thinking? Maybe that coastal resort we went to for our 5th anniversary, the one with the private beaches? I nodded, doing the math in my head. Our anniversary was 6 weeks out. By then, our joint accounts would be frozen. The rental property would be locked under legal review, and I'd be in a different state entirely, signing paperwork that would burn her entire world down. Let's do it, I said. I'll look at flights this weekend. She beamed, leaned forward and kissed me across the table. And all I could think was, which account should I freeze first? The week before my work trip, I filed the paperwork myself. Walked into the county courthouse on my lunch break, filled out the preliminary separation documents at a table in the lobby like I was renewing my vehicle registration. Petition for dissolution of marriage. Grounds. Irreconcilable differences. I could have listed adultery, but that would have tipped her off too early. This was just the foundation. The evidence would come later. The clerk was a woman in her 50s with reading glasses on a chain. She barely looked at me. Filing fee is $435. I paid cash. She stamped the forms, handed me a receipt, told me the respondent would be served within 30 days. Can I request a specific date? I asked. She glanced up. For service? Yeah, I'll be out of state for work. Want to make sure I'm not around when it happens. She studied me for a second, then shrugged. Fill out this form. We'll do our best. I scheduled it for 3 weeks out, right after I'd be gone. Walking back to my truck, I felt nothing. No guilt, no hesitation, just the satisfaction of checking another box on a very long list. That night, Zafira made pasta. We ate on the couch, watching some crime documentary she'd been binging. She kept pausing it to theorize about the destroyer, like she always did. I nodded along, made the appropriate comments. You're quiet tonight, she said, leaning into me. Everything okay? Just tired. Big project coming up. The one in Denver? Yeah. The lie came easy now. There was a project in Denver. I'd volunteered for it specifically because it gave me the perfect cover. 2 weeks on site, all expenses paid. Completely legitimate reason to be unreachable. I'll miss you, she said, running her fingers through my hair. I kissed the top of her head. I'll miss you, too. She had no idea I'd already started rerouting my paycheck, that I'd emptied my half of our savings into an account she didn't know existed, that I'd contacted the property management company for our rental and informed them I was removing her access due to financial restructuring. I'd been meticulous. Every asset I could legally separate, I did. Everything joint that I couldn't touch yet, I documented. I knew exactly what I was entitled to, what she'd fight for, and what I'd let her keep just to make this faster. The house, for example, jointly owned, but I didn't care. She could have it. The mortgage was manageable on her salary, and I didn't want to fight over paint colors and furniture. Let her keep the place where she'd lied to me for 8 months. I hoped every room reminded her of what she'd destroyed. The rental property, though, that was mine. I bought it before we got married with money I'd saved from my first engineering job. We'd refinanced it together years later, but the equity was still rooted in my separate property. My lawyer, well, the lawyer I'd eventually hire, would make sure that was clear. 3 days before I left, I prepared the account freezes. Called my bank, told them I suspected fraudulent activity on our joint accounts, unauthorized access, potential identity theft. They took it seriously. Set up a fraud investigation hold pending review. It would take weeks to resolve. And in the meantime, everything was locked. She wouldn't be able to transfer, withdraw, or access anything. I did the same with our credit cards, reported suspicious charges, got them frozen pending investigation. All of it legitimate, all of it documented, all of it completely legal. The night before I left, we slept together. I know how that sounds, but she initiated it, and I didn't have the energy to refuse without raising suspicion. So, I went through the motions, felt nothing, and afterwards she curled against my chest and whispered, "I love you." I said it back. The words meant nothing anymore. The next morning, I woke up at 5 a.m. My bag was already packed, had been for days. I made coffee, loaded my truck, came back inside to say goodbye. She was standing in the kitchen in one of my old t-shirts, hair messy. She wrapped her arms around my waist, pressed her face against my chest. 2 weeks is so long, she murmured. It'll go fast. Call me when you land? Of course. She pulled back, looked up at me with those eyes I used to trust, and smiled. Love you. Be safe. I kissed her, one last time, felt absolutely nothing. Love you, too. I walked out the door, got in my truck, and drove away. Didn't look back. At the airport, I checked my bag, cleared security, found my gate, pulled out my laptop, connected to the Wi-Fi, opened my banking app, clicked report fraud on our joint checking account, submitted, opened the credit card portal, requested temporary hold due to suspicious activity, confirmed, logged into the rental property management system, removed Zafira's admin access, saved changes, sent an email to our tenant, CC'd only to my new personal email, informing them that all future communications should go through me directly. Then I opened a burner email account I'd created the week before, typed out a message to Kelix's wife's personal email. I'd found it through social media. Subject: You deserve to know. Attachments: 14 photos, 6 months of hotel receipts, timestamp documentation. I didn't write anything in the body. The evidence spoke for itself. Hovered over send for exactly 3 seconds. Clicked it. My boarding group was called. I stood up, grabbed my bag, and walked toward the gate. My phone buzzed. Text from Zafira: Miss you already. Red heart emoji. I turned my phone off and boarded the plane that would take me somewhere she'd never find me. I landed in Denver, checked into a corporate apartment, and started my actual job. Foundation analysis for a new commercial complex, soil samples, load calculations, structural integrity reports. 8-hour days that kept my mind occupied and my hands busy. I was good at compartmentalizing. Always had been, but every night, I'd open my laptop and watch the fallout unfold. Day 3, I checked the fake email account I'd used to send Kelix's wife the evidence. She'd opened it, downloaded every attachment, hadn't replied, didn't need to. I could picture her sitting there, staring at photos of her husband with his arm around my wife, and I felt nothing. Not satisfaction, not guilt, just recognition that the first domino had fallen. Day 4, I got a notification from our bank. Zafira had tried to access our joint checking account. Request denied. Fraud investigation in progress. She tried again an hour later. Denied again. Then she called the bank directly. I knew because I'd set up alerts for any contact regarding our accounts. She would have been told the same thing I'd been told when I reported the suspicious activity. Unfortunately, during an active fraud investigation, all account holders are temporarily restricted from accessing funds pending resolution. This can take 4 to 6 weeks. 4 to 6 weeks. By then, she'd be served with divorce papers and none of it would matter anyway. Day 5, the property management company sent me an email. Zafira had called asking why she couldn't log into the rental portal. They'd informed her that I'd removed her administrative access and updated the contact information. She'd apparently demanded they restore it. They politely told her that without documentation proving her ownership claim, they could only take direction from the primary account holder, me. I archived the email and went back to work. Day 7, my phone, the old one I'd left powered off in my laptop bag, had 43 missed calls, all from Zafira, 17 voicemails. I didn't listen to them, deleted them all without opening. I'd set up a new number the day I landed. New phone plan, new provider, new device I'd bought with cash at a big box store an hour outside the city. Only my boss and 2 coworkers had it. Zafira didn't even know it existed. Day 9, I checked her email account one last time. She'd sent frantic messages to 3 of our mutual friends, people we barely saw anymore, couples we'd had dinner with maybe twice a year. Have you heard from Aaron? He's not answering his phone and something's wrong with our bank accounts. I'm really worried. None of them had responded yet. We weren't close enough for them to get involved. She'd also emailed my work address. Subject line: Please call me. I archived it unread. Day 10, Kelix's life started crumbling in real time and I had a front row seat. His wife had filed for divorce. I knew because it was public record in their county and I'd been checking every day. She'd moved fast, restraining order, emergency custody hearing, the works. Smart woman, but the real damage came from the professional side. I'd sent that anonymous complaint to his brokerage's corporate headquarters with just enough detail. Employee Kelix Thorne engaged in extended affair with married client contact, misrepresented personal expenses as business development, ethical concerns regarding judgment and trustworthiness in high-value transactions. Yacht brokerage is a reputation business. Clients trust you with million-dollar vessels. If you can't be trusted in your personal life, why would they trust you with their assets? I didn't know if he'd been fired yet, but the investigation had definitely started. I'd included enough specifics, dates his business dinners lined up with hotel charges, client names he'd falsely attributed meetings to, that they'd have to look into it. Kelix had gone silent on Zafira. I knew this because her email drafts folder was full of unsent messages to him. Why aren't you answering? Did your wife find out? We need to talk. Please, I'm scared and I don't know what's happening. None of them sent. Just saved as drafts, rewritten, deleted, rewritten again. He'd abandoned her the second his own world caught fire, exactly like I knew he would. Day 12, Zafira tried to reach me through my company's main office line. Left a message with the receptionist saying it was a family emergency and she needed to speak with me immediately. My boss asked if everything was okay. Yeah, I said. Just some confusion with our bank. I'll handle it when I get back. He nodded, dropped it. I went back to reviewing geotechnical reports. Day 14, I was sitting in my apartment eating takeout when I got the notification. The courier service had attempted delivery of legal documents to our house. Zafira had refused to answer the door, probably thought it was another bank investigator or process server for something else. They'd try again tomorrow. And the day after that. Eventually, They'd leave it with a neighbor or tape it to the door. Didn't matter. She couldn't avoid it forever. I wondered what she was thinking right now. If she'd figured it out yet, if she'd connected the dots between the frozen accounts, Kellix's silence, my disappearance. Probably not. People like her don't think they'll face consequences. They think they're too smart, too careful, too loved. They're wrong. Day 16. I checked her email one final time before I deleted my access to it entirely. Didn't need it anymore. Everything was already in motion. Her inbox was chaos. Overdue bill notices. Automated warnings from the bank. A message from Kellix's brokerage asking if she had any professional dealings with their employee that they should be aware of. Corporate speak for we know about the affair and we're building a case. And one new email. Subject line, legal notice, court filing confirmation. She'd opened it. Read it. The timestamp said she'd been staring at it for 40 minutes. It was the formal notification. The divorce petition had been filed. She had 30 days to respond. I closed the laptop, finished my dinner, and slept better than I had in months. 3 days after she received the court filing notification, I had the envelope delivered. Not through regular mail. Through a legal courier service that required signature confirmation. I wanted to know the exact moment it reached her hands. The tracking alert came through at 2:44 p.m. on a Thursday. Package delivered. Signed by Z. Thorne. I was in a site meeting when my phone buzzed. Excused myself, walked outside, stood in the Denver cold, and stared at that notification for a solid minute. It was done. Inside that envelope was everything. The full evidence file I'd compiled over 4 weeks. Every photo I'd taken, every hotel receipt with her name on it, every text message summary from our phone records showing hundreds of communications with Kellix's number. Screenshots from her secret email account, the one she thought I'd never find. But the real centerpiece was the timeline. I'd spent hours building it. A spreadsheet that cross-referenced dates, locations, expenses, and lies. 23 pages documenting every single instance I could verify. March 14th, told me she was at regional conference in Phoenix. Credit card shows hotel charge in Scottsdale, same hotel Kellix checked into that night, verified via his social media check-in, later deleted. April 2nd, working late on quarterly reports, phone records show 51-minute call to Kellix's number at 9:15 p.m. May 18th. Our anniversary dinner. She left early. Claimed migraine. ATM withdrawal at 11:30 p.m. 3 blocks from Kellix's apartment building. On and on. Months of lies, itemized and time-stamped. Irrefutable. I'd also included the divorce settlement terms. She could keep the house, I didn't want it. Joint debts would be split. But the rental property was mine and I had the documentation to prove it. The inheritance money I'd already moved was explicitly listed as separate property, non-divisible. She had 30 days to sign. If she didn't, I'd file publicly with all evidence attached. Every detail. Every photo. Every lie. Her choice. I went back to my meeting, discussed soil compression ratios and drainage systems. Nobody knew that 2,000 miles away, my wife's entire world was imploding. That evening, I checked the email account I'd used to send evidence to Kellix's wife weeks earlier. She'd finally responded. Thank you. I filed 2 weeks ago. His lawyer is already trying to negotiate, but I have everything I need. I hope you're doing okay. V. I didn't reply, wasn't looking for connection or solidarity. Just wanted confirmation that he'd lost everything, too. And he had. I did some searching. Found a local news brief from his city. Luxury yacht brokerage terminates senior sales associate following internal ethics investigation. They didn't name him, but the timing matched perfectly. No job. No wife. No kids. His ex had full custody pending the divorce settlement. All for an affair with a woman who was now completely radioactive to him. He'd probably tried to contact Zafira after he got fired. Probably sent desperate messages asking what the hell happened, who knew, how his wife found out. And Zafira, frozen out of accounts, unable to reach me, watching her affair partner's life burn down, probably told him everything. That I'd vanished. That our accounts were locked. That divorce papers had been filed. I wondered if he'd responded. If he'd offered comfort or solutions. Or if he just blocked her number and moved on to save himself. I knew which one it was. Day 19, Zafira tried to reach me through my parents. My mother called my new number, one of only 3 people who had it. Honey, Zafira's been trying to get in touch. She says it's urgent. Something about bank accounts and legal papers. We're getting divorced, Mom. Silence. Then, oh, I didn't know things were that bad. They weren't. Until they were. I kept my voice neutral. If she contacts you again, don't respond. This is between me and her. Aaron, what happened? Nothing I want to talk about. I'm fine. I'll call you next week. I hung up before she could push further. Day 22, I got a notification from my old email, the one I'd abandoned but still monitored out of curiosity. Zafira had sent 47 emails to it over 3 weeks. I opened the most recent one. Subject: Please, Aaron. I don't understand what's happening. I know you're angry and maybe you have reason to be, but we need to talk. We can fix this. Whatever you think I did, we can work through it. 15 years doesn't just end like this. Please call me. Please come home. I can't do this alone. I love you. Z. I stared at that message for a long time. Whatever you think I did. Not I'm sorry. Not I made a mistake. Just deflection and denial, even now. I deleted it. Deleted all 47 without reading the others. Then I blocked the address entirely. Day 25, she showed up at my workplace. I wasn't there, still in Denver for another week. But my boss called me. Hey. Your wife came by the office today. She seemed really upset, said she needed to talk to you about an emergency. My jaw tightened. What did you tell her? That you're on site in Denver and won't be back for a while. She asked for your hotel information. I didn't give it to her. Good. Don't. Aaron, is everything okay? She seemed. We're getting divorced. She's trying to delay the process. Don't give her any information about me. If she comes back, call security. He hesitated. All right. If you need anything. I don't. Thanks. I hung up and sat there in my empty apartment, staring at nothing. She was unraveling. Grasping at anything. Trying every avenue to reach me. And finding nothing but silence. Exactly as planned. Day 28, the deadline was 2 days away. I wondered if she'd sign, or if she'd fight, force this into court, make me expose everything publicly. Part of me hoped she'd fight. Just so the whole world could see exactly who she was. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Local Denver area code. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Aaron? Her voice, shaking. Desperate. She'd tracked down someone at my company, got my hotel, probably called every place in the area until someone confirmed a guest by my name. I said nothing. Aaron, please, I know you're there. I can hear you breathing. Please. Just talk to me. Silence. I signed the papers. Okay? I signed them. They're being filed tomorrow. You win. Just, please, tell me why. Tell me what I did that was so bad you had to destroy everything. I almost laughed. Instead, I hung up, blocked the number, and went back to work. 6 months later, I was standing in my new apartment in Austin, unpacking the last box. The Denver project had ended. My company offered me a permanent position at their Texas office. More money, better projects, complete geographic separation from everything I'd left behind. I took it without hesitation. New city, new apartment, new gym, new coffee shop I went to every morning. New life. The divorce had been finalized 8 weeks after she signed. No court appearance necessary. Just paperwork processed through the system, stamped by a judge who probably handled 6 other cases that same afternoon. Dissolution of marriage granted. Assets per written agreement. No alimony. We both waived it. Clean break. I got the notification via email from the courthouse. Checked the box, archived it, went to lunch. That was it. 15 years reduced to a PDF file in my inbox. I hadn't spoken to Zafira since that phone call she'd tracked me down for. Hadn't heard her voice. Hadn't read her emails. Hadn't acknowledged her existence. The lawyer I'd eventually hired, just to formalize everything I'd already built, told me she tried to contact me through his office multiple times. Wanted mediation. Wanted to discuss things like adults. Wanted closure. I told him to handle everything without my direct involvement. That's what I was paying him for. He did. Sent her standardized responses. Refused her requests for meetings. Kept everything transactional and cold. She signed because she had no choice. The evidence was overwhelming. The terms were fair, legally speaking. Fight it, and I'd file publicly with every photo, every receipt, every lie documented for anyone to see. So, she signed. And I never had to see her again. I wondered sometimes if she understood why. If she'd figured out that I'd known for weeks before I left. If she realized I'd been 3 steps ahead the entire time, planning her exit while she planned our fake anniversary trip. Probably not. People like her rewrite history to make themselves the victim. She'd probably convinced herself I'd overreacted, that I'd been cruel and cold, that I destroyed our marriage over one mistake. 8 months wasn't a mistake. It was a choice, every single day. I finished unpacking, broke down the cardboard boxes, took them to recycling. My apartment was sparse. New furniture, nothing from the old house. I'd left it all for her, didn't want the couch we'd picked out together or the bed we'd shared. Didn't want physical reminders. Started completely fresh. My phone buzzed. Text from my coworker. Drinks after work? New place open downtown. Sure. 6:30? Perfect. Normal conversation. Normal life. No drama. No lies. Just existence. I looked around my apartment. Big windows, decent view, quiet building. Everything I needed and nothing I didn't. For the first time in months, I felt something close to peace. Not happiness. That would come later, maybe. But peace. The kind that comes from knowing you made the right decision and executed it flawlessly. Zafira had wanted closure. An explanation. Some final conversation where I told her how much she'd hurt me, where she apologized and cried and begged for forgiveness. She never got it. Because the truth is, I didn't need to tell her anything. She knew what she did. The timeline I'd sent proved I knew every detail. The divorce papers proved I was done. What she wanted was absolution. Permission to rewrite the story so she wasn't the villain. I gave her silence instead. And silence, I'd learned, is the most complete ending there is. No screaming match. No tearful goodbye. No moment of weakness where I almost took her back. Just absence. Total and permanent. She'd probably spent months trying to figure out what she could have said or done differently. Probably replayed the last morning 1,000 times. Me kissing her goodbye, walking out the door, never coming back. Good. Let her sit with it. Let her wonder. Let the silence be louder than anything I could have said. I grabbed my keys, headed out for those drinks, drove through Austin traffic, found parking, met my coworker at a bar with exposed brick and good whiskey. We talked about work, about the new project, about weekend plans. Normal things. He asked if I was dating yet. Not yet, I said. Still settling in. He nodded. Didn't push. Didn't know my history, and I liked it that way. Later that night, I walked back to my apartment alone. Looked up at the sky, clear, full of stars you couldn't see in most cities. Thought about Zafira for exactly 5 seconds. Then I went inside, locked the door, and didn't think about her again. Somewhere, 2,000 miles away, she was living in that house, sleeping in that bed, walking past the spot where I used to keep my shoes by the door, living with the consequences of thinking she was smarter than me. I hoped the silence was deafening. I hoped every unanswered question kept her awake at night. I hoped she finally understood that some things, once broken, don't get repaired. They just end. And I was fine with that. Better than fine, I was free. The end. Final note from OP. People ask if I regret how I handled it, if I should have given her a chance to explain. No, she had 8 months of chances. She chose him every day. I chose me. Best decision I ever made. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you really like our videos, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Have a great day.